Hello. Drone team.
Hello, Francois.
You want to bring the whole team so we can say hi?
Yes, let's do this.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, world.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to our live coverage, demos, and Q&A of our new announcement, the release we made last week of Uno Platform Studio and Uno Platform 6.0. Maybe it's worth doing a quick roundtable so people can introduce themselves. I'm François Bonguet, the CEO and founder of the Uno Platform.
I'm Jérôme Labande, CTO of Uno Platform. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Steve. I'm one of the engineers on the Uno Platform team. Next up, Nick.
Hey, I'm Nick, lead on the hot design team.
Yeah, I'm Martin. I'm on the core platform.
Thank you.
Great.
So if you can switch slides around.
Yeah. Let's do this.
So thank you all for being here. Like we've started this over a decade ago when we've set up ourselves on a mission to really build and become the most complete and productive platform to build apps on .NET. We came at it as app builders first and foremost, and really that vision and that mission that there would be something out there that will allow us to be as productive as we can be building apps, cross-platform apps, and .NET space matter to us. And really with our release last week, we strongly feel that we've been able to fulfill that first phase of that mission. And that's really what we want to show you today with both Studio and 6.0. And the response, the community response since we've announced has been beyond amazing for us. Like we feel blessed to have such an active and caring community. You keep telling us daily that you love the rate of innovation of what we're pushing out and the bits and the ideas that we push out and that we're able to exchange on those ideas, and that you feel that we care, that we're committed and dedicated to make this a reality. And really today, like that's what we want to show you in more details with our various tools and experiences. So what does it mean for us to be like the most, or like how do we make it a reality and something concrete to be the most productive and complete platform to build apps on .NET is really to support developers throughout their entire journey and throughout the entire dev loop. So it goes from working on your operating system of choice to using your favorite IDE and obtaining through these various IDEs a consistent and equal experience should you choose VS Code, or Rider. But it's also about how quickly can you set up your entire environment, manage your dependencies and workloads. How can you quickly create a project with your and clearing your intent as to what you want to support in that project, to how with Studio today, how can you build visually and get instant feedback as to what you're trying to build and investigate, debug, and create more visually. It's also about tapping into years and decades of experience in terms of leveraging well-known recipes for routing and dependency injection and hosting and logging and design systems and all of that. So we have a rich ecosystem of additional optional experiences on top of our core UI framework. But it's also then how can you make those apps run fast for your customers and be the best they can be, by also ultimately being able to quickly package them into something that you can push out quickly and target all the platforms where .NET runs today. So really, there's two offerings in our platform today. There's Uno Platform Studio that we're finally extremely happy to be able to announce as generally available. We've released it last week, and that contains three main experiences. We have, first and foremost, our free hot reload experience that comes with our community edition, which we believe is the most complete hot reload experience that allows you from any IDE targeting any platform to make any types of modifications and get instant feedback visually in terms of hot reload updates. We've also included in Studio our new, and really we look at it as a modern and next generation visual designer that we'll be presenting again today with Nick and team, that really has a unique spin and twist as to how we approach visual design today. And finally, we have, and we've had this for a while, but it's not now part of the Studio family, is our design to code solution as a Figma plugin that allows you in a single click to generate maintainable pixel perfect code in a single click. underneath all of that studio experience and those tools, we have our Uno platform now in a 6.0 version. So Uno platform, it started as a UI framework that runs on top of .NET that allows you to build apps for mobile, web, desktop, and embedded experiences, and really allows you. And historically, we've had a blend of SKIA and native renderers. So we had SKIA renderers for desktop and native renderers for all the other platforms. And last week, what we've announced is that we've unified and made our SKIA rendering available across all platforms, and you'll see the major impact that it has in terms of performance and capabilities. But you can now use, and it's our new default, use our unified SKIA rendering engine across all platforms with many benefits. And obviously, on top of that, as you're building an app, you're able to, from a single code base, using a single project, use your markup language of choice, should it be XAML or C#, and build those experiences in the ecosystem that you really enjoy by tapping a variety of extensions, right? So we have our accelerators. So we have our themes with design systems. We have our extensions for a variety of like more cross-cutting concerns like routing and logging. We have our toolkit of additional controls that you want to tap into. There's a rich ecosystem of first and third-party controls that you can reuse, like maps and chart controls, plus additional tooling that some of which Jerome will show today. But also specifically in our 6.0 announcement, we've announced that we've now included additional real cross-platform controls, like our new media player that works on all SKIA targets, or new web view support that works on all targets. We have native control hosting that allows you to include per platform native controls without any of the airspace common issues that are known in the industry. We've improved our Windows desktop experience. You'll see what it does in terms of performance and package sizes. We've unified all of our non-UI, what we believe is the most complete non-UI set of cross-platform APIs, from file pickers to sensors, that allows you to have a single code-based approach and a cross-platform approach to all these considerations. Finally, something we missed in our announcement, but also relevant, is we're leveraging Microsoft's deliveries as much as possible. So we've added Keynote support for a source generator enable linker-friendly approach to HTTP clients. And all of the Uno platform, like there's been tons of questions and discussions in the ecosystem lately as to how projects like ours approach monetization ultimately and the viability of these projects. And we've pledged that Uno platform and everything you need as a platform to build and run apps is and will remain free. So like you can always, if you're interested in our studio offering, as an optional offering, go look into it and benefit from other productivity boosts, but the platform is and will always remain entirely free. I was mentioning SKIA rendering, so this is a good preview of how much we've been able to improve performance, both at cold boot times, but also during rendering. So this is our gallery mobile app, and you've seen that we've tripled or reduced by over 60% the startup time from like a second and a half or something on a modern device to less than half a second. And we're continually measuring those benchmarks, and we see there's other technologies that we're looking at in other ecosystems, and we want to make sure we have a premium offering that's consistent with what people expected in terms of performance. So we're super excited by that. We've also improved other KPIs and performance indicators. On the desktop side, we've reduced the Windows package sizes by over 75%. We've improved mostly on mobile, but or specifically on mobile, we've improved the rendering by over 100x in some cases, and we're using some of our LOL/dopes tests for that, and we see massive differences and gains. And finally, on larger enterprise apps, on WebAssembly, for example, we've been able to relieve memory pressure and reduce memory consumption by over 30% as well. So those are all major wins for us that accumulate on all the releases we've done, but now that are now being realized in 6.0. So I've mentioned like how the team and the tool we have and the platform we have can support the entire dev loop. So now you'll see with Jerome and then with the rest of the team how each section of that dev loop is covered by some of our offering. So Jerome.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about the support of the tooling for making sure that you get started very quickly with your app, and making sure that you're able to get started very, very quickly when you're developing your applications. So let's start with UnoCheck. The first thing that you will do is install UnoCheck, and this is a tool that you get as part of the Uno platform offering, which is basically a tool that will make sure that you have everything available. And that tool is something that you install with .NET Tool, .NET Tool install, and then you get something that will be able to set you up on all platforms. So to get this running, basically what you do is just run UnoCheck like this. And what we'll do is just set you up for everything. It will set you up for OpenJDK, Android, one-stop shop for everything that you need, depending on the platform that you're on. So for instance, if you're on Android, on Linux, you're going to get the Android tooling, but not the Mac, the iOS tooling. But if you're on Windows, you're going to get everything. If you're on Mac, you're going to get some of the other tooling, depending on the target. And you can see here that I ran the UnoCheck tooling to make sure that we have all the workloads that are needed to run everything. And when you can see here that I have one of the workloads that is not working, that is not been installed yet, and it's going to fix my setup once I do the installation. So I'm not going to do this right now. So I want to show you one of the other things that we added in Uno 6. So it says that I have problems right now, but that's fine. The second thing that you want to do is go to the Live Wizard. So if you are on Linux, for instance, like I am here, we are providing a new platform.uno, which allows you to just set up your app for you. So you can choose and say, I want my app to be named My App 3. And then you're going to be able to choose from our presets, either recommended or blank. I'm going to choose blank for now. And then you can choose the platforms that you want to develop on. You can see here that it's going to be using the SKIA rendering, but you can choose either using the native or either native or SKIA. You can also choose a presentation framework, whether it's MVVM and VUX. You can choose, of course, your markup, whether it's the plain XAML, which works well with hot design, but also C# markup if you're more inclined to use C# completely for defining your UI. And then you can choose between different things like themes, extensions for developing your app pretty quickly without having to reinvent the wheel, like the Keynote support that Francois just mentioned. All sorts of features like choosing from a native to SKIA. Like the media player element and others. And you can choose also from the CI pipeline, testing, authentication, and things like that. Then once you're done, you can click the create button and copy a command line that you can just go and paste directly into your command line. So once I'm done with it, it's going to be creating my app in just a few seconds. I'm just going inside my new app and opening code with it. So this is the blank application template. It has all that you need to be able to set you up directly for just developing your app pretty quickly. And first, what I want to show you is, so the first thing that you need to do when you're in VS Code is just make sure that you install the Uno platform extension. That's the one-stop shop, again, for making sure that your app runs properly. And then once you're done and you've selected your project here, you can see that I had my problem with UnoCheck. What I was saying, well, your app is not, your system is not set up properly, and you may having issues building. We've integrated that into the IDE. So now let's say you've started your application in a certain way, or you're maybe opening your solution on a new machine or something like that, and your setup is not done completely, then the IDEs are going to be notifying you when something is incorrect. Know that UnoCheck in that context is only requiring you to install the portions that are relevant to your project. So let's say if your project does only desktop and web, then it's not going to be trying to install anything Android or others. So if I click the fix button, UnoCheck is going to start again in the terminal here, but it's the same for the other environments. And if I say yes, it will install the workloads, and we're going to be good with it. So fix applied, everything's good. I can now continue working. Now, my application has been set up. I need to be going to the desktop environment. So make sure that the target I'm going to be running is the desktop one. For the demos for other targets, you're going to see that with Martin, Nick, and Steve. And I'm going to be choosing just the desktop, and I'm going to be starting my application right away. So it's building, just compiling everything, taking all the assets, generating environment files as needed. And then I have my application started up already. So the first thing that you can notice is that I do have my hot reload tooling that's available. And we can see here that everything's connected properly. And then we have the hot design icon that's just available on the side. So what I'm going to do is just enter the hot design mode. And what you can see is that I've just switched over to the hot design mode, but my app is still running. This is very important. The hot design tooling is not a standard designer tool. It's your application becomes the design surface, and you can modify lots of things here. I'm not going to get into the details because the rest of the team is going to be showing that way more details. But what you can do is just see that we have by using the toolbox here and the live visual tree on the side, that I can, let's say, add a button, for instance, and just drag it here and start modifying a few things. And you can see here that the live visual tree is going to be showing up that new button that I added. And let's say if I want to change the text of that button, I could say, hello, Uno 6, and it changes right away. And you can continue designing your application like this, and then you can just move into your application. You can see that's the application running. I can click on the button, make bindings and things like that, modify the code because hot reload is available as well. That's the kind of modifications that we can make directly in the application here. So designing your application while it's running, super nice, because if you're modifying your application and you're 6 pages down in your app, you don't have to stop your app and start it again once you've made the modifications. That's one of the type of scenarios that we're looking at when developing applications like this. And that's it. So that's the beginning, and I'm going to be handing that over to Steve and Nick so that they can show you what they are able to do with their demos for using hot design and chef application, and show you how to use all of that.
Yes. All right. Yes. All right. Okay. So let's start off. So we're going to have a little duel here. So I'm going to go old school, and we're going to fix this bug that we have here. I'm hearing some feedback. I don't know if it's yeah. So we have this bug that we have in Chefs, and we'll talk about the Chefs app in a little bit. But basically, just a small bug. The ingredients list is not showing up on our live cooking page, right? So we're going to drill into the app. We're going to get here, and we're going to see that we don't have anything here in our ingredients list. So let's see if we could repro. So what I'm doing right now is I am on. Oh, sorry. I'll explain first. So I'm on my Mac right now, and this is with Rider, and I'm currently running the application. So this is our Uno Chef's reference app that, again, we'll introduce a bit more later. But I'm just going to make a stopwatch. I don't know, this timing app here. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's see how fast I can do this. So we'll skip over. We'll drill into where we're going to repro this application. So I'll just log in with anything. I will get into a recipe, and we'll start cooking. And so, yes, indeed, I do see that we have a blank recipe list here. Okay. So, and we have it blank in the rest of, each one of these steps. So knowing this app a little bit, I sort of know where to sort of jump in here. So I might have a little bit of a head start, but this is happening. Oops. This is happening in our live cooking page, and I'll close this. And so what we were seeing there was a flip view with each of our steps for our recipe that we're inside of, right? So each one of those flip view items was representing one of the steps, and so that's where our flip view is being bound to the steps of our recipe. And so the template for this UI for each of those steps is defined by our step template. So that's actually what I need to be looking for. So step template is a data template defined in my page resources at the top. And so you'll see we're binding to other properties of the step, like the name and things like that. So this is representing an instance of each step of the recipe. And so here I have my items repeater. And so this is where I'm going to be displaying my list of ingredients. This is where the problem is. And looking at it quickly, I can see that we don't have an item source set at all on this items repeater. So most probably the issue. So just as a quick jump into what I need to actually bind to. So we have our MVUX model here that we have as our data context for our page, which is exposing these list of steps here. And so an instance of step, like we saw before, we were binding to the name and things like that, is ingredients. So ingredients is most probably what I want, and that is a list of strings. So if I were to go here, and so I'll cheat a little bit because I'm already taking quite a while here. So I will put this in and I will set the binding. And so what I'm going to do actually is normally I would have killed the app. I would have added this, built, launched the app, gone through login, gone through the recipe, gone through the homepage, gone through recipe, gone through live cooking, and validated that it all worked. So since we do have full-on hot reload support for all platforms, all operating systems, all IDEs, what I could actually do here is just save my changes to the XAML, and we'll let hot reload do its thing. And so you see we have the ingredients now existing in our app, and it has hot reloaded, and it exists on each of the steps. And you'll see in our little toolbar here, we do have a successful live cooking page update from hot reload. So even with hot reload, what am I at? Okay, I just made it under 3 minutes. So there we go. So let's see if Nick can do any better.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, so let me see if I can improve on that. And as Jerome mentioned, he's already sort of given us a walkthrough of the hot design, and sort of once we've done this Duel, I'll proceed to give a little bit more of an in-depth walkthrough of the various components that we have for hot design. But like Steve did, I'm going to walk through this and fix the same bug. And I'm going to set the timer. I won't try to explain all of the hot design components as we go through here, because obviously this is a time test. But then we'll come back out afterwards and we'll have a look at various things along the way. Okay, so let me start the timer, and we're going to step through the app in the same way Steve did, and go and fix the same bug. So I'll start the timer, and we'll go ahead and skip to the right place. I'll log in at roughly the same rate Steve did. I'll click on the recipe, go to start cooking, and here's our ingredients page where we're missing the ingredients. So I'm going to click on hot design and enter hot design, and we'll go ahead and actually click on this flip view, and we're going to go and edit the item template of that. Now you'll notice here that we try and guess what size that they should be rendered, but you can come in here and modify this to give you a little bit more space with the designer for the template there. Next, we'll click on the items repeater. So remembering now we're drilling down into the contents here, and at this point, this is where we're missing the item source. So I can go ahead and find that property. I'll click on there, go to binding. I'll set it to a regular binding, and we'll click on ingredients. And you'll notice immediately this starts to populate. And as I come out of here, I can then go back into a interactive mode, and I can step through my flip view, and job is done. So I think Steve came in at about 3 minutes. We came in at about 1 minute. So that's like a pretty good reduction in time. And the nice thing that you saw along the way is that we actually had context for what we're doing. So as we click through to the template on the flip view, we're able to see that, okay, well, there's an items repeater. Okay, I can click through the item template on that. And I can go and set the item source. And it actually told me, rather than me having to go into all my code, it actually told me what the property was that I could actually data bind to. Okay, I'm actually going to restart the application at this point because I want to show you a couple of things from the welcome screen. I'm going to close the clock as well. Let me just restart the app. Now, as Jerome mentioned, the sort of the key components of hot design are the various tool windows. And so once we get into hot design, which I'll do now, you can see that you've got the toolbox on the left-hand side. So this includes the built-in components, so things like buttons and text boxes, etc. But it also includes your user controls and any third-party libraries that might also bring user controls. Down the bottom, we've got our elements tree. So you'll see here, these are the elements that are displayed on the page. There are some non-editable ones, so the things like the frame view that's automatically been injected by navigation, and so you can't go ahead and click on those and edit them. And then when you select an element, you can go and see the properties that are available for that element. Actually, what I might do is just click on the image, because that's got a reduce set, so you can see that we're filtering those down using our smart filtering. I'll go ahead and click on the button because there's some other useful things that we can see here. So on the left of these items, you'll see that there's a blue dot. This indicates that the value is set locally in the XAML. And on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a corresponding icon that basically gives you more information about the type of thing that it's been set to. So, for example, the style here is set to a resource. The content here is set to a XAML literal, so basically just text in the property. And down here, we've got a data bound element. So you can see that provides more context about the value that's being set for all of those. Now, across the top, we've got our toolbar that Jerome pointed to before. And in here, we've got the ability to do things like control the zoom. We can resize it to test our application on different form factors. So, for example, I can actually expand it, change the size to basically fill the available space. And that's quite useful if you're just changing elements on the screen. It gives you the maximum amount of space to work with. The other thing we can adjust here is we can actually switch themes. So you can actually test your app to make sure that it's going to work in light and dark themes. And you can switch between interaction and selection mode. Okay, so by default, when you come in here, you're in selection mode. If you want to actually interact with the app, and you saw this during the speed walkthrough, you can switch it to selection mode, or sorry, interaction mode, where I can then interact with the app. Okay. Now, Jerome showed you how we could create an element and actually set properties on it. I'm going to walk you through a number of sort of more advanced user cases. So, for example, we're going to start off by looking at user controllers. Now, user controllers are an interesting case because when we change the property or change the structure of a user control, we need it to update everywhere in the application. And so we've got a special editor experience for that to make sure that as you leave that editor experience, we're able to update it everywhere in the app. And you'll see in the flip view here that we have on the welcome screen that actually what we've got in here is 3 instances of this welcome view. You can see that they've got custom properties. So you can see over here on the right-hand side under the properties, we've got title, image URL, and description. And as I click on the individual items here, you can see that those have got different properties set for them. Now, the title's showing, but the description's not. Okay, so let's see if we can go in and fix that. So if I come over here, I can click on this little pencil button. And that's going to take me into editing mode. Let me just back out for a second. Let me make sure I click on the top, the one that's actually visible. So let me go and edit that one. Okay, and you can see here that there is actually a text block underneath the title, but it's not actually set to anything. So I'm going to come over here and set this to a data bound thing. And as we drill down here, as I scroll down the list here, you'll actually see that the description here, you can actually see the current value. And so I can click on that and it's going to set up that data binding expression. Okay, I'm going to come out of here. So I'll come back into the main experience. And if I go into the interaction mode, you can see that that's now set across all of the instances inside the flip view. Okay, the next scenario is going to be a little bit more complex. So let me just go into the main page of our application. And here you'll see that there's actually this little heart button. If I click on this, you'd expect it to be favorited, right? So if I click on the item, this thing should be filled to say that it's favored. Now, clearly that's not working. So let me see if I can go and fix this. And the reason why I want to do this and actually show you is because this is actually something that's part of the item template of the list of recipes here, which is actually inside an items repeater, which is actually inside a feed view. And so the feed view is basically used so that we can set data templates for value. So when there's actually a value, when there's an empty list, or when there's an error generated when we're populating the list. And the other thing that actually should just happen when we click on there is I do actually have a breakpoint set in code here. So this breakpoint should be hit when we actually click on that item. So hopefully once we fix this, we should be able to do that. So I'm going to come back out into interaction mode, into selection mode. I'm going to select on here, and you can see over in the elements list, this is our feed view. I'm going to go into the value template. I'm going to click on the items repeater, and I'm going to, again, go one level down. I'm going to go into the item template, and now I can select on this toggle button. And I can see here that the command actually isn't set. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now, the other interesting thing about this is the command that we actually need to set is actually a property not on the item itself, but actually on the feed view. And so in order to do that, in order to reference that, we're actually going to make use of a type of binding that's available in the Uno toolkit called ancestor binding. And what that lets me do is it basically allows me to walk up the visual tree and find an element of a certain type. So in here, I can basically say, okay, I want to bind this to the feed view. And then I can specify my path. And again, if I expand out here, I can see the available paths on the feed view. Now we're going to bind to the data context, and obviously this is an object, so we don't know the other properties that are on it. But I know that the method's called favorite recipe, so I'm going to set that like that. And then we're going to escape all the way out. Now I could step back individually, so I can step back to the feed view template and then step all the way back out here. And then I'll go into interaction mode. And if I click on there, my breakpoint's hit, and I'll hit continue on that and come back into the application where I can click on here and see that that's now populated. Okay, so we're able to do all of that without actually having to restart our application, including it being able to hit the breakpoint that was already preset. Okay, the next thing we're going to show is actually if I resize my application, one thing you'll notice is that this tab bar on the right-hand side is actually taking up a surprisingly large amount of the screen, and it's not really orientated for a mobile-oriented display. Now, in our page, we do actually have a couple of items here. So we do actually have two different tab bars. We've got one that's geared towards a sort of a navigate, like a larger screen, so it's on the left-hand side. And then we've got another tab bar that's actually designed to be at the bottom of the screen. So we're just going to control the visibility of those. And one of the things we're going to use here is a responsive extension. So this allows us to basically set different values of the properties for different breakpoints for the application. Now, I didn't mention this before, but this form factor selector at the top here, these are the default breakpoints for the responsive extension. So if you want to go ahead and test them, these are narrow, normal, widest, and then you can specify custom size if you want. And we'll make use of that in a minute just to see how we can do this. So I'm going to click on this auto layout, which is the parent control for this tab bar. And we're going to come across here and find visibility. And we're going to go ahead and set this to be use the responsive extensions. And what we want to do is we basically want to hide this for narrow, and we want to show it for widest. Okay, so I'm going to set that to collapsed. And then under wide, I'm going to set this to display. And so now if I switch between those, I can see that that's hiding and showing. And I could do the same again for the other tab bar, but obviously this time it's going to be in reverse. So I want it to display for normal. I want it to be hidden for widest. So let me just go and set that and like that. And now what we should see as we toggle between the two, we should be able to see that the tab bars are essentially switching on and off, which is how we want it. Okay. The next thing we're going to switch to is take a look at how we do support for flyouts. And this is a feedback we had quite early on in the days is how do we support designing flyouts and content dialogues and other pop-ups? And so this posed a little bit of a challenge because as Jerome mentioned, your app's running and actually we're essentially putting the hot design tooling around your running app. So it's all running within the process of your application. And if I go into interaction mode and actually click on this profile, you'll see it actually appears over the top of all the hot design tooling, which is clearly not very suitable for the editing experience. But we do have a workaround for this, and it's basically to use the same tooling that we actually use for editing or working with mobile, which is to have all of these tool windows in the external window. Okay, so I've got those running in the external window. I can come back to my application and go into interaction mode, open the profile, and actually I'm going to drill into the settings. And now when we pause it, we register that there's a pop-up open and we take you into essentially pop-up editing mode. So it's kind of got the same backstack that you'd expect to see for template and for user control editing, so you can escape it that way. And I can come to my external window and select an element here. Sorry, I'll select it here and then come to my external window here. And I'll just change this to personal information because we don't want settings inside settings. Okay, so that demonstrates how we can work with pop-ups inside our application. So this is going to work with content dialogues, pop-ups, flyouts, etc. Okay, let's exit out of this mode and return back to our application. Now I'm going to switch modes here a little bit. We're going to switch across to, I've got the same application running on a mobile emulator. And what you'll notice here is that this particular emulator actually has a notch on it. And currently the welcome page is spanning the entire screen. So it's hiding the notification bar at the top, and it's also sitting underneath that notch. So let me just see if we can go and fix that using safe area. So this is something, again, part of the toolkit, and we can come here, select on auto layout, and we can find our safe area property, and we'll set this to visible bounds. And so this is one of those reasons why you would want to use hot design in the context of a mobile emulator or design tool for doing those device-specific capabilities. In this case, the notch behavior. All right, let's switch gears again, and this time we're going to go to the web. So this is the same application running on the web. We've got a small issue here where the styling of this button is not correct. So we're going to enter hot design, and we're going to select on that button, and then we're going to go ahead and change the style of this button to our Chef primary button style, and we'll see that that gets applied in the application running here without us having to do very much. So that's the support for web. The one thing I will note for the web, make sure you start it without debugging, because with the debugger it's going to be exceptionally slow and almost unusable. And so if you want to do that, you basically come to Solution Explorer, right click on there and go debug, start without debugging. All right, now I did notice as we were going through the application that there was one little thing that I meant to show you, to talk about under here, which is that this is actually not a media player. This is currently an image. Now, I don't have the Figma file for for Chefs handy, but I know that Steve does. So Steve, if you want to give me a hand, can I get you to load the Figma file and maybe copy some code across using design to code?
Yes, let's do it. All right. Okay, cool. Yes, so I'm on the same page. And yet this is indeed just a static image. I cannot play. I cannot drag the scrub the seek bar or anything like that. So let's hop over. So this Uno Chefs app that I'll continue on after this has a full-on design file in Figma. And so we could look through the designs. We have designs for all breakpoints, for large and for narrow sizes of the page. And so I'm already set up here. So we have our design for our live cooking page here with our media player element, everything's set up. And this is just, this is just design data. I could take this, I could drag it around, I can do whatever I want. From Figma, this is a web-based tool, right? So Uno targets the web. So we actually have a nice Uno platform Figma plugin that actually launches its own little Uno application. So this is an Uno app living inside of this, sandbox of Figma. And what I can actually do is I'll refresh with my selected frame from Figma. I'll zoom this out a little bit. And so we actually see, okay, what would this design surface or this design canvas look like in an actual Uno application? So what this plugin has actually done, and I'm sorry, I can't zoom in on the plugin window itself, but what this plugin has actually done is it has read the design data, just the flat design data that's in Figma, and it has generated the actual XAML for this page to actually get it to work. And since we're running in an actual WebAssembly Uno application right now, this is a usable application. So you can see that, I'm clicking these buttons, I'm dragging the seek bar. Obviously, there's no media playing for this because we haven't set it up for any of that. But this is our other component that's coming in from from Uno Platform Studio for our design to code capabilities. So, and I mentioned before, it generates all this XAML, right? And as well, you can generate it as C# markup instead. I like XAML better, so we're going to do XAML. What I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to take all this page code because it's just going to be easier, and not the page itself, just because I have my usings set up already. And we'll jump back to where am I? We'll jump back to, so yeah, well, here's the app, and we'll jump back to the live cooking page in Rider. And I'll just go ahead and I'll delete everything that was already there with the hard-coded images and all that. And I will paste in the code that came from Figma. I'll save and I'll switch back to the app. Hot reload should kick in. Give it a second. Give it a second, and there you go. And now we have this exact same page. Looks pretty much the same. But now we have this actual working media player that has come to life just by me pasting in the XAML code. And we could play around with it. We could start the video. We could stop. We have all the availabilities of that media player. So
nice, awesome. Thanks for that, Steve. All right, well, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah. So we have been showing quite a bit of this application. So I'll just sort of mention a little bit of what's going on here. So Chefs basically is our largest and our most complete reference implementation for basically, yeah, there you go. There's a slide. So it's built for real world scenarios, for complex, like rich UI, complex navigation scenarios. And it comes with all the bells and whistles that we provide from Uno Core, from our first party libraries like Uno Extensions, Uno Toolkit, and material design theming from Uno Themes. as well as third-party components for things like live charts and things like that, right? So if you're going into the recipe details, oh, sorry, I'm not, yeah, so we could share my screen now. So if you're going into your recipe details here, you know what I mean? We saw most of this already, but we have things like live charts and third-party components that are available into the application as well. And so there's just it's just a very thorough reference application that can do a lot of stuff. And one of the great things are these, like, you know, complex sort of scenarios and navigation. So here I have my flyout, and within the flyout I have complex navigation. I'm going so I have sort of stack navigation on top of my main page navigation here, and we can do, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. So there's a lot going on in this application. It is very feature rich. We tried to use everything that we have available within our platform itself. So as a companion for Uno Chefs itself, well, we have this overview here, and it sort of breaks down, you know, the features and what we have and availability. But what I want to point out is the recipe book. So on our documentation live right now, along with the overview for chefs and explaining what it is, we have what we call the recipe book that goes along with our Chefs app, right? And so this is a companion guide for basically all the practical ways and guidance to use these proper best patterns and practices that we think are the best ways to develop .NET applications in a cross-platform world, right? So I'm not going to go into all of them, but they're categorized within UI and non-UI for customizing, for responsiveness, for interactions, third-party components. So just as an example, we could take a look at customizing the status bar on mobile. So in this mobile use case, we have a toolkit available options for you to be able to theme the background and the foreground of your status bar, right, on mobile. And so how the recipe book is sort of structured is this problem solution sort of that it presents what really is this problem space, and how we at Uno Platform have built solutions for this, and then how this is actually solved and implemented within our Chefs reference implementation. So it sort of shows the code. This is all live code snippets exactly from Chefs itself, and it'll give you sort of a breakdown of you know what it looks like in Chefs. And then we have calls or links out to the actual source code for Chefs. So this is the actual usage in the real Chefs code that we're looking at right now. And then, of course, for further reading and further deeper documentation into things like status bar, we have the toolkit documentation here, and it's embedded with as many of the tech bytes that we have available for things like status bar and other parts of the platform. And so, yes, once again, so Chefs is public. It's out there. Go check it out. Pull it down. Play around with it. Take a look at all the stuff. There's lots to dig into, and keep your eye on the recipe book site as well, because we just started building it. So there are a lot more guidance articles that will be coming out, because there's a lot of dig through in the Chefs repo. But yeah, it's fully open and available. So go ahead, take a look, and I hope you learned something through looking through the Chefs code. So that's it for me. So I'll pass it back to Jerome. Very
good. Well, thanks, Steve. So right now we're going to be talking about once you're done with your app, pretty much, what can you do with publishing your application and making sure that it's available across platforms, directly on the stores or directly on anything else. That's the kind of modifications that we've been adding to the platform as a open source offering. There's just nothing for you to pay with to get all of this included. And I'm going to be showing you one small demo about the packaging, so that you see what all that means. So let me just switch over to my demo here. So we had the Uno Chef application available there. The application was set up in a certain way that we can get it onto Linux and set it up so that it can be packaged as Snap. So in our context, we're going to be publishing it to a Snap package. You can push in the Snap store, but it can be, on a Mac OS. You can do a .pkg, .app. You can do all sorts of other type of packaging. So I saw that someone on the chat was talking about ClickOnce. So ClickOnce is also something that we're providing as a support, and this is something that is super useful, because being able to publish in stores is the right way to do it. For WebAssembly, you also have a way to publish applications properly. So basically, you can publish directly to your whatever service that you have. We are providing lots of guides for you to publish applications. But if you find any service that is not supported on documentation, let us know. We're going to be more than happy to provide information there. So for my application here for Uno Chef, the first thing that you can do if you want to publish your application is basically use .NET Publish, and then we can use the Net9 desktop framework and use a self-contained option. So basically just package everything, runtime included, and then choose the package format. So in that context, we support Snap for Linux. I'm not gonna run the command here because it takes a few minutes, but basically you have everything that you need to be able to package your app and make it run as part of your environment. It takes all the information that are set in your new configuration. So for instance, if you go into the project, you can see that in the CS project, we have the description, the app title, application ID, things like that. That's application version. All of that is set in the application version so that it's easily publishable. So let's say that I've done the running for this. I can just install my application this way. So you basically do a sudo snap install. Dangerous is because you get more access to the system and in classic mode. And then when you install your application, you basically have something that is available directly in the environment. So when I search for my app in there, I get it available directly as an icon in the environment. And once my application is starting up, I see the same thing that Steve was showing up earlier, and it's working properly. So that's one of the cool thing with regards to publishing. So we're looking at adding more and more ways for publishing. I know the Linux crowd is very eager to have more publishing formats, so we're definitely going to be taking a look at adding some more around that. So that's it. That's for the publishing story specifically for Linux, but can happen for other targets as well. And with all of that, we're going to be talking about everything that Martin has been working on super hard to get some interesting demos around the support for SKIA Everywhere and see how fast it runs and how we've added WinRT and all the super cool APIs. And Martin has all the information for you to be all aware of what we're able to offer. So Martin, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Hope you can hear me well. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. Let's dive into the nitty-gritty, the under the hood of Uno platform. This is the core framework, and I will be talking about how we made Uno platform as a framework better with 6.0. So one of the main aspects that we focused on with 6.0 was performance. And we made performance better in two significant ways. First one is that we focused on all the hot paths of our application to make sure everything is optimized. And even if you just take your existing application and just update the Uno SDK to 6.0, you will immediately see a significant performance boost. So there is a big performance gain just by updating to a new version. But there is a second way where we made performance significantly better, that is adding the SKIA Sharp rendering as an option for Android, iOS, and WebAssembly. So previously, we were using the native rendering capabilities of each platform so that we used the native views to render the UI. But now you have the option to use SKIA Sharp instead so that we render all the content of your application on a SKIA Sharp canvas. And you can see here, here I have opened two Uno platform gallery applications side by side, and you cannot really tell the difference. They both look the same. But on the left side, I have the native rendering, and on the right side, I have the SKIA Sharp-based rendering. And you can really see the performance difference. When I, for example, here click on data grid, you can see that freeze, that it takes a bit to load, and it really is disruptive for the user. But if you compare it to the SKIA Sharp rendering, if I click, it's immediately there. It's like instantly showing up. And that's the difference that you can get if you are using SKIA Sharp rendering. And I can explain why that happens. Because if I go here to the element tree, you can see in the case of DOM rendering, we were actually generating all that HTML and CSS and everything for you. So there is a very large nesting of HTML elements showing up here. So you don't write HTML, of course, we generate it for you, but that means that we generate HTML that goes into the browser, then it's parsed by the browser, it has to be parsed and rendered, all those styles and everything has to be applied. That means a lot of wasted time and a lot of native interop, which is, of course, costly. When we compare that to the SKIA Sharp rendering, you can see that the tree is much simpler. There is just Uno Canvas where we draw everything and it's hardware accelerated, so it's very fast. And then we also support things like accessibility. So if you want to, you can enable accessibility using your screen reader, and we will generate semantic root and all those semantic elements so that the screen readers can still understand the page and correctly explain it to the users. So this way you get much better performance than before, but you still have the accessibility support that you need. So that's kind of performance comparison in Uno Platform 6.0. And now let's switch to some additional benefits that SKIA Sharp rendering brings. So here I have my Uno Platform sample application that I built for this demo with my colleague Dominic. This application is running currently on Ubuntu, but it's running inside of WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, on my Windows machine. And I have here an example of one API that definitely benefits from SKIA Sharp rendering, and that is acrylic brush. Because if you know WinUI, you know that a lot of WinUI elements are actually using this blur effect on the background of the element. And this effect was previously available in Uno Platform, but it wasn't exactly the same as in WinUI, because we had to kind of fall back to those native blurring features of the individual platforms, so we couldn't really pixel perfect match everything to look exactly the same. But now with SKIA Sharp rendering, it looks exactly the same and behaves exactly the same on all platforms. And you can really see that you can tint or change the tint opacity and luminosity opacity so that it really matches your branding. And you can even change the color of the tint. So I can set it to something like red, and you can see that completely changes the behavior and the look of it. And this works now the same way on Android. So here is my SKIA Everywhere Android application running this same sample. And I have also iOS application running the same sample. And it looks exactly the same because it's the same rendering capability and the same rendering pipeline. So that's amazing. And that makes your applications much easier to actually make them look to match your brand. So that is just a quick sample of those additional capabilities. And you might be thinking or asking that it might be actually hard to update to this new SKIA rendering, but I will show that it's actually super easy and barely an inconvenience. So if you go here to global JSON, you can just update to the latest Uno SDK from 5.6 or something like that to 6.0 or newer. And then you go to your CS Proj file and you just add this SKIA render feature. And this only, just this flag makes your Android, iOS, and WebAssembly applications suddenly render using SKIA Sharp. There's nothing else you have to do, and you can easily switch back and forth by just removing or adding that feature in. So you can really pick anytime during your development cycle if you want to use SKIA Sharp rendering or the native rendering. So that's really beneficial. All right, let's go back here. And actually, there are some Microsoft people in the chat as well. So there was a discussion where they were asking how hard it will be for them to update their existing components and toolkits to support Uno Platform 6.0. And the great thing is that we didn't do any breaking changes either. So all the existing controls and existing components are still compatible with 6.0. So for example, the data grid from Community Toolkits is just working without any changes. They didn't have to change any part of the code. They didn't have to publish new binaries. It just works. The same thing with Maps UI to render maps controls and so on. So this all works without any changes needed, and it's still compatible with 6.0. And the good thing is that those controls also work with the SKIA Sharp rendering, so it will work on Android. You can render those maps, and everything will work exactly the same. All right, so let's look into some built-in controls as well, because we have a lot of controls built into the platform, which are coming for free as part of the Uno Platform framework itself. And one of them is our ability to render 2D content on the screen. So here is SKIA Canvas element, which is hardware accelerated 2D graphics rendering control that allows you to kind of draw any SKIA content onto the surface of your application. And if you need some additional dimension, you can go to with the GL Canvas element, which renders 3D elements as well using OpenGL. And again, that's cross-platform, so it works on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, you name it. And I can actually switch here so that I don't spend all the time in Linux, because I have the same application running here on Windows in my on my Windows machine directly. So you can see the same behavior that I showed before, except for it's in dark theme, because my system is in dark theme. But there's one important note here, because we in the beginning you might have noticed that we brought a new Windows backend. So now, instead of depending on WAPF for Windows management and so on, we are directly using Win32. And that has big advantages, because we can now do proper AOT, and as well we can now bring the package size down, because we no longer have to package WPF binaries with our UNO platform applications. So your applications will be much smaller this way. So again, the same application running on Windows works exactly the same. But there are some additional new controls that were added in 6.0, and they are pretty exciting. So I will show you here. I have media player element, which is a video player that allows you to play video content inside of your application. And now it works across all targets. So it means WebAssembly, Android, iOS, macOS, Linux, and Windows. It works everywhere. And I can prove it to you actually here. I can go to the web version of this application, which you can find on unexpectedapis.uno. And you can see that the media player element works there exactly the same way. So that's pretty cool. And there's one thing that I want to note here, because usually when you are drawing something on a canvas and you want to bring in some native elements, which the media player element is, if you check here, you can see that we're using the video HTML element, which is definitely a native element to render video content. What usually happens is that you cannot really show any managed content on top of that native content. So for example, here I have the video playing, but this controls layer is actually XAML controls showing up on top of that video. And this is pretty magical, because that shouldn't be possible, but it is. And we solved that airspace issue across all targets. So we are able to render layered XAML controls on top of native content as well. And it's a pretty complex implementation. Our colleague Rames figured it out, and I can actually cover that in some future live coding video if you're interested. It's pretty interesting to understand how it actually works, but it works, and it allows you to render content on top of native elements, which is pretty cool. So let's switch to the second new control that is in 6.0, and it is WebView. And here in this example, I have a WebView 2 control that is showing actually the same application that I'm actually showing now. So this WebView inside of my application is again the same unexpected APIs application. So kind of inception scenario, I would say. But I can go even further. If I go here to Android and I go here, I can open the same application here, the same sample here. I can load a web view containing this web version of the application. And inside of that application, I can actually open the same web view sample as well. So we have now an a native Android application showing a WebAssembly application of UNO platform, showing a UNO platform WebAssembly application showing the same sample, which I can then open. I can do, for example, the acrylic brush here, and it all works all nicely. And it's kind of pretty cool example how you can go, how far you can go with UNO platform applications, that you can nest them even like this. I'm not sure if it's useful, but it's cool. So, all right, so let's go back to the WebAssembly application. And so far I was mentioning only UI APIs, but we have also a very wide non-UI API layer that comes with UNO platform. Those are all those device sensors and all those features that allow you to talk to your device itself. And all those APIs that were available for WebAssembly, Android, iOS, they are still there. You can still use them with all your SKIA based applications without any changes. So I can actually show you here some examples. I have a launcher, which allows you to launch a new tab in your browser. I have, for example, network information that allows you to check if you're connected or not. There is sharing, which allows you to share some content from your application using the native OS-based sharing dialog. So this allows you to connect to existing installed applications. And you can also have something like gamepad. So I have this Xbox controller here, and I can press buttons and they are showing up in the browser, and you can see those live values showing up in the browser as well. So just an example of how far you can go with those native APIs. And finally, I hope you like those samples, because you can now actually talk to the browser and recognize speech within your Uno platform applications. So just a wide range of non-UI APIs that you can use. And even if you don't use Uno platform, you can now use these non-UI APIs in your .NET applications, because we separated the non-UI layer from Uno platform. So most of these APIs you can now use in a plain .NET Android application, for example. So here I have a plain .NET app. You can see just .NET 9 Android, no MAUI. It's just a plain .NET Android application with an activity. And I'm talking to accelerometer here and getting some readings, and then showing them on the screen. And I can show that application running in the emulator as well. So here, this is the application, very simple. But if I rotate the device, you can see those values are updating live and showing up directly on the screen. And this is a Uno platform WinRT API running in a non-Uno platform application, which is pretty fun. All right, so I think I went through everything I wanted. So I will hand it over back to Jerome to continue.
Yes, thank you, Martin. That's some amazing demos. It's actually a break from all the food that that was having people getting hungry with Nick's demo a while back. Thank you. So let's continue a little bit. So Martin just shown quite a bit of all the WebView 2 things. This is something that we're providing by default for all targets, Linux included. I know that Akan has been asking the question as we're supporting this for Linux, and we're using the GTK4 support. So we're basically using the native embedding that Martin just talked about. So we're just putting the WebView on top, and you can see what you want with, and you can use your Linux app there. And works also with it works on Mac OS and of course on Windows, and works on all targets actually. So it's available everywhere. For the media player element, same thing. So it's across targets. On Windows and Linux, we're using libVLC. On iOS and Mac, iOS, Mac OS, and Android, we're using the native players, just embedding the original content. We're not touching anything, just showing the original one. And for the web, we're using the media element just as is, and we're interacting with it directly. And that's it. So that's all of that. So I'm going to hand it over to Francois, who can talk about the rest.
Thanks, Jerome. So yeah, really the idea today was to give you a sneak peek and tease you with how we believe Uno Platform Studio on one hand can make you the most productive you dream of being. So like make you a 10x developer by using those visual editing capabilities and the code generation with our Figma plugin. And on the other hand, we've tried to show you some of the announcements on the platform side that we've released recently, but there's a lot more in there. There's reactive state management, everything we've been announcing as part of Uno 5, and even before that, we have design system capabilities for fluent material out of the box with themes. Like we have so many different things that are worth exploring that go beyond what we just like recently announced in 6.0. So I strongly encourage you to go dig deeper in some of these topics. And at the platform level, like we're not a desktop first platform, we're not a mobile first platform. Today with 6.0, we're now like we're really and truly believe that we have equal capabilities and the same level of maturity across all platforms, and you can look at it as a true cross-platform solution and experience mindset. And going back to our dev loop, like we really want to be able to take somebody from a blank canvas and operating system all the way to a ready to be deployed packaged app with as little friction as possible and as quickly as possible. So when you're looking at this and the tooling we're offering and all the entire solutions and the patterns that are proposed with some of our accelerators and extensions and all of that, if you ever feel that there are gaps there that could improve and enhance the experience, please engage with us. Like, we see this, we're obsessed with this loop. We want to make it as tight and short as possible, and that's been part of the mission since day one. Finally, we feel blessed every day and we pinch ourselves every day, but we've seen exponential growth. We have an amazing active community across channels. They're helping each other on Discord. We've had amazing success with the various toolings that we've been deploying in terms of traction, but also on the other side, we have customers and clients that are supporting us every day with our paid offerings and the enterprise support and now the licensing that we have. So we want to thank all of you together for the encouragements and the support you're offering daily. So on behalf of the team, really thank you for showing us that you care and that it's worth continuing. If you want to start today, the best way to start is to go to Platform de Uno and start your free experience by hitting the Getting Started, creating an Uno account. If you want access to Uno Platform Studio, you can join the discussions on GitHub and ask questions. And finally, if you need any support, you can go to our Discord servers and have a chance to meet with the team and the community. They've all been super helpful to each other, so I really encourage you to go there.
That's it. Amazing demos are around. So we got some interesting questions on the chat, and we're probably going to be taking a look at some of those. We had questions that have been answered. So the MVP benefits. So,
yeah. So we're going to offer so for students and other MVPs, we're going to be able to offer some of our studio offering to them as a thank you to be part of the same ecosystem that we call home today. So it's going to be published as a blog post on our website.
Great. The next question is, we know that you're targeting faster and Flutter native here. Are you maintaining a continuous profiling cycle to track this? So I can answer this. So yes, we are. We definitely, that the portion about going SKIA rendering is definitely something that was part of that profiling. We know that we still have a few pieces to work on, but definitely we're getting there. We have upcoming updates for 6.1 and later versions that will improve that performance. Also with, we're talking about startup performance as well as general performance all around. We have very large clients that are using Uno as well. So it's kicking the tires pretty hardly. And it shows that it shows the performance improvements, and we're tracking all of that for sure. Next question is, does the small size affect the time between runs and restart? So I can tell some of it. So if I understand the question, small size, if I understand it's the small size of the app, maybe.
Yeah, Jerome, we've reduced the package size on the Windows desktop. It's mostly when we transition from having a WPF shell to a Win32 shell, plus other optimizations. So it doesn't it's actually improving performance, if I'm not mistaken, Jerome.
Yes, that's correct. So making the application, so there's the small size is actually improving because of the build time. So particularly on iOS, when you're reducing the size, so we introduced a feature called XAML trimming so that was there before for WebAssembly, and we're introducing that as well for iOS, and it's making applications so build faster for once, for starters, and then inside the app, yes, for sure, because the binaries are smaller, so the apps actually start faster. So that's good. Next question. In previous version of Hot Design, didn't work with dialogues. Is it the same for Windows 6, or is that a future feature?
I could probably take that one. Well, as you saw in the demo, we're able to work with flats, but content dialogues work the same way. They're a layer that appears in essentially the pop-up layer, and so you go into it the same way, external window, and then you can basically pause the application when you've got the dialogue open, and then you can go ahead and edit them. So.
Very good. So what we have next? There was a question about, is the Uno team planning to build an MCP server?
Yeah, we're definitely, now that we've shipped 6.0, like we're clearly planning what comes next, and there's, for obvious reasons, ideas being looked at as to how we can improve even furthermore at that dev loop. So there's ideas about like the setup phases of it that could benefit from having an MCP server available in agent mode. So like those are all things that we're actively looking at. Again, if you have ideas or comments, feel free to come to GitHub, open discussions, and that's where we typically engage on those topics.
Excellent. The next question is, you haven't talked about Win32. How does that affect an Uno app? It actually affects the app in multiple ways. So the first one is performance. So here's performance. So the app is actually rendering it faster. We've made a lot of changes with regards to how the OpenGL backend surface is actually drawn. So if you move to that target, it's going to be faster immediately. The second one is application size, because Win32 doesn't need WPF anymore. And Martin talked about it, where when we're doing the packaging, particularly when we're talking about single, self-contained apps, we don't need to package a WPF framework anymore. So it's about 100 megabytes less in the package size. So that's pretty nice. WPF was not trimmable, and Win32 is trimmable because it's not the .NET API. So we're basically able to do standard IL trimming. We were also on top being able to add XAML trimming and resource trimming, which actually bring down quite a bit in the size of the application. So we're going from a 200 megabyte app down to a 52 megabyte apps for Win32. So that's pretty cool. Saying a missing detailed list of Win32 changes. We now name and placing programs. Yes. Well, yeah. So it's related. So it's the same question. So Win32, the idea is that for you, it's pretty much transparent as a developer. You're changing the bootstrapping to the builder that you have in a program.cs from use Windows. That was the WPF set of features. And by using the use Win32, the application is going to work the same way. It's just going to go faster and be smaller. That's the beauty of the change that we made here.
And that's all part of our migration docs.
Exactly, and the migration doc, definitely. So if you go to the platform.uno, there's a section specifically for upgrading from Uno 5 or earlier to Uno 6, and that is included there so that you can upgrade your app more easily. I see that Hakan has been able to already deploy a ClickOnce app using Azure DevOps. Thank you for the feedback. It's very good to know that it's actually working pretty well. So what else did we get? I didn't see any. Did any of you see any other question around this? I'm going to be going a little bit above.
Well, there was a discussion that Yuri and I were contributing to around the support for drag and drop. And so it was answered, but basically it wasn't really, we didn't explicitly call it out as part of the demos. But yes, drag and drop is supported. The hot design experience, because it's a runtime experience where your elements are contained by or constrained by the container that they're in. So for example, if you've got a button sitting in a grid that doesn't have rows and columns, you're not able to drag it anywhere because it's got nowhere to go, because it's always going to be rendered in the same spot. Whereas if you add a row and column, you can then drag it to the corresponding row and column. Now, Blend handles that slightly different. The drag experience in Blend basically starts adding random margins and alignment properties, but we'll take it on board that there's definitely some stuff that we can improve around that to basically cue developers to or provide feedback that you can't actually drag it anywhere, or that adjust it so that we can add easier support for adjusting margins, that type of thing. But that's definitely stuff that we're looking for future versions for sure.
Awesome.
We can take a few more questions, maybe for 5 minutes, maybe, and then because if there's anything else. So one of the questions that was raised is, can we release on Windows without an installation needed? Yes, you can. That's the good part of the newest update that we made. So if you're creating an application that uses self-contained mode, you can basically take the output binary, put it on any machine that doesn't have any .NET install, and it will work as is without any changes. That's the beauty of the Win32 change there that we made.
And Jerome, it might be worth it just sharing a little hidden secret about the tooling that we're building. So things like the settings app and the external tool window. So those are actually Uno applications that are actually shipped as part of the Uno tooling. And so those are essentially just a desktop SKIA based app, and they'll run on all of the target platforms. But yeah, they don't require installation. And so, we're able to leverage the internal capabilities of Uno to ship tools for Uno, which is kind of neat. So.
Exactly. Next question. Can you talk about the removal of Mac catalysts from the default platforms? So that one is actually quite interesting. So most of the time developers were using Mac Catalyst as a way to go to Mac OS. And actually most of the time, the features of Catalyst, which are not that, large in terms of supported features, is developers actually needed the desktop app running on Mac OS directly. So to remove the confusion, we just took it out and pretty much the same feature set, and it works pretty well. It's actually starting faster because Catalyst has a quite steep price for starting applications, interestingly. So basically, if you had an application that was running and was using a Catalyst, it's still there. Yeah, you can still use it, but we're not pushing it as a template option anymore. But we're suggesting that you move your apps from Mac Catalyst to the desktop target. It's actually faster and probably more maintained in the future because we're making everything available everywhere, including that target.
Without the limitations that Catalyst would bring.
Yeah, without the sandbox, because it actually has a sandbox. So a few other questions. Maybe Martin can talk about that one. So with SKIA rendering, doing that for all platforms, I guess this is why you don't need WPF runtimes. This seems very similar, like Flutter works on multiple platforms.
Yeah, that's indeed the case. We are giving you the option of going with SKIA Sharp rendering because it allows you to be really pixel perfect everywhere. And the fact that we have a specific runtime on each of the targets allows us to actually develop only those really platform specific parts of the runtime and keep all the rendering and all the lifecycle management and everything shared across all platforms, which makes our development cycle much faster, and also means that if we fix some UI issue, we fix it everywhere, which means that we will be able to service all your issues faster as well. So,
very good.
I think that's it, Jerome. It wraps up
that's
everything we wanted to present. Again, go give it a try. Come back to us with questions, comments, love, and go to platform.uno and hit the get started button.
Thanks, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you.
great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.